Hey everybody out there in internet land. I bet you're probably wondering who I am. Well, I'm called the Black Slimer. That's an unusual name, you may ask. Why would I call myself that? Well, because just for you, I'm willing to dive down deep into the black slimy schlock that Hollywood dribbles out. And today's topic is something that pains me a little bit. I like superhero movies. DC and Marvel have turned out some pretty good superhero movies, but they've also turned out some crap. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Now, of course, I'm not going to mention some earlier superhero movies like an older version of the Fantastic Four movie or the Doctor Strange movie. No, you know what? Linkara and Sage already handled the Fantastic Four movie, and the Nostalgia Critic already did the crappy 1990s Captain America movie, so I'm going to leave those be. I'm going to tackle the movies that were at the beginning of what I consider the superhero movie craze, early 2001, with Spider-Man. Now, I love me old Webhead, okay? He is by far my favorite superhero. Which is weird because I'm absolutely scared to death of spiders. Now, I thought Tobey Maguire did a pretty good job being Spider-Man. The only thing he lacked, he wasn't really much of a smart aleck. I mean, when Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, he's kind of a smart ass, you know, quipping off to every bad guy he's slapping around. But no, his fight scenes are actually pretty quiet. He doesn't shoot off any one-liners or anything. And yeah, some people probably thought he was probably a little too whiny when Uncle Ben died, focusing too much on it, but you know what? That's his whole motivation for being a superhero. Yes, originally Spider-Man started out as being a television icon. He saw it as a way to get rich and get famous, but then once Uncle Ben died, everything changed, man. I loved Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, but his costume, looked like a reject from the Power Rangers show. And I love me some Power Rangers. I love all the cheese that comes with it, but not here. Not in a Hollywood movie. I think it would have been better if Norman Osborn had like done what Michelle Pfeiffer did in Batman Returns and just gone completely knucking futz and just put together this goofy, crazy costume. Would it have made sense? No, it wouldn't have made sense because the Green Goblin is crazy! Spider-Man 2. Like I said, I thought like with the first one, I thought they had a good choice for the actor who played the villain. Alfred Molina, great Dr. Octopus. And Dr. Octopus is one of my favorites. I mean, next to Venom and Carnage, he's the only guy who can do everything Spider-Man can, and more. Plus, I think it's cool how, you know, he's got those metal arms that can move around and do whatever he wants. But I think it would be kind of cool to have that in real life too. Now, as for Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, I can take her or leave her. I really don't care one way or the other. Spider-Man 3. Now, everybody out there knows what this movie could have done without, and that was the freaking new Goblin. They could have made Harry the Hobgoblin. It wouldn't have been accurate to the comic books, but it would have been better than that dumbass snowboarding ninja that they came up with. And plus, I think Venom wasn't in it enough. I mean, he wears the black costume for most of the movie, and then towards the end, he's Venom, and for the most part, Venom just shrieks and growls. He doesn't really talk. Well, Eddie Brock talks, but not while wearing the Venom mask. That was a bit of a letdown. The best villain, was the Sandman, and again, really great choice for the Sandman. Oh boy. X-Men movies. Now, I like the X-Men comic books, and I love the 1990s TV show. I grew up on that, and I'm a 90s boy, so I liked any animated superhero show that was out at that time. The X-Men movies were a bit of a letdown. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, yeah, he had the personality and the attitude, but he was too tall. I mean, Wolverine's supposed to be short. I mean, I'm 5'6". I'm taller than Wolverine. And Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto, again, good personality-wise, but he just looked way too old. I mean, Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier, great choice, phenomenal choice in my opinion. But he just looked like they were just so, there was such an age gap between the two. I mean, Charles Xavier and Eric Lenscher are kind of the same age, aren't they? So how come Magneto looks so old and Professor Xavier doesn't? And let's be honest, who are we kidding? These X-Men movies are Wolverine movies guest starring the X-Men. And if you don't think that's evidenced in here, well, that becomes clearly evident in X2, with some yahoo by the name of William Stryker as the villain. I don't know if William Stryker appeared in the comic books. I haven't read every X-Men related comic under the sun. I don't think anyone has, who has that kind of time. But, really? A Wolverine-centric story? Really? This is supposed to be the X-Men. It's supposed to be focused on the X-Men. X-Men 3. Oh my god, such a letdown. Now, I'm glad that with the introduction of Beast and Angel, they finally had all the original X-Men appearing in a movie. But why wasn't that the case from the very beginning? Again, I thought Kelsey Grammer was a great choice for the Beast, but he really wasn't in it long enough, especially not in action. You know, you put the Beast in the movie, I want to see him being the Beast, jumping around, doing flip kicks and somersaults and all that crazy gymnastic stuff. I mean, he's the Beast. And you know, on the cover here they have Angel in a uniform. He's not really in action all that much. And perhaps most disappointing of all, there is an alternate ending on the bonus features on this disc where Rogue doesn't get her powers taken away. You mean to tell me that's the ending you could have gone with and didn't go with it? Hollywood, what is wrong with you? Oh my god. And then I had seen X-Men First Class and I liked it because I thought it was a little bit more faithful to the comic books. Filmmakers, listen. When you're making a comic book movie, you're making it for a comic book fan base. You need to stick to the source material. The reason why I'm saying that so much is because on X-Men First Class in the bonus features, I heard that they were planning to use X-Men First Class as the first movie, but they didn't. They turned out well, obviously you know that First Class wasn't the first movie. You know, it was technically the, fourth or fifth one, I don't know. And then they make Wolverine Origins. Gambit should have been in it longer, and they should not have screwed over Deadpool the way they did. Deadpool does not have optic beams, and he can't pull swords out of his wrist. That's not genius, that's stupid. Why would you ever screw up Deadpool like that? He's the merc with the mouth. He should have been that. Except not just for the first few minutes of the movie that we see him in. Sabretooth was a little bit better because we see him a little bit longer. Blob. Why was Blob a part of Weapon X to begin with, and why wasn't he really fat from the very beginning? They could have put him in the first X-Men movie, but they didn't. Why? They could have had the original class of X-Men, Beast, Angel, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Iceman, but they didn't. They could have had the original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Blob, Mystique, Magneto, Toad, Sabretooth, but they didn't really. Oh, a Fantastic Four. Now this one's a little bit better than the movies that came before it because it focuses on the entire team. But I'm not crazy about what they did with Doctor Doom, how they included him on the space mission, which, now considering the way they went, how Doctor Doom was the one that funded their trip, it kind of makes sense. But again, they could have stuck with the story from the comic books where Victor Von Doom had been Reed Richards' roommate and he was working on some kind of crazy experiment. Reed finds a mistake. Doom refuses to acknowledge it, and the experiment blows up in his face. He goes to Tibet. Okay, you know what? Just by that explanation there, I think they could have. It probably would have gone on too long, but you know what? They could have done a condensed version. But you know, whatever. It worked for the story they chose. It worked. You know. Plus, it gave Doctor Doom a different reason to hate Reed Richards. But I just didn't like how his skin was turning into metal. Why couldn't you just have him get really, really bad scratched up and then put on the suit of armor? And that would just fuel his anger at Reed Richards even more. He would blame him for his scarred body. But whatever, it worked. I liked all these actors as, you know, the Fantastic Four. And the guy who played Doctor Doom, he did a good job with what they gave him. You know, and I kind of like Doctor Doom's costume. I mean, the mask looked great, but, and his suit at the very end did cover up most of his metal body, so, you know, the metal thing didn't really bother me too much at that point, but I still thought it was a stupid idea. Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. I love Lawrence Fishburne as the Silver Surfer. Great voice. But they don't show Galactus. They just show him as this big cloud. You're going to make a movie with the biggest bad guy in Marveldom, and you're not even going to show him. No, you're just going to show some scary cloud and focus a little bit more on Doctor Doom and then finally give Doctor Doom his suit of armor. Why? Why couldn't Doom just be back in Latveria and we focus more on Galactus? And why did they have to ruin the concept of the Super Skrull? Why couldn't the Skrulls have been in the second movie, you know? You could have made it some alien invasion story about the Skrulls wanting to find a new home for themselves or something along that line. They invade and the Fantastic Four hands them their first real defeat, and so they very quickly strap together the Super Skrull designed to combat all of them. But no, they take Johnny Storm and basically turn him into the Super Skrull. Oh, why? Why, Hollywood? Why? This is a standalone movie, Ghost Rider. Nicolas Cage is Ghost Rider. Some people could have gone or went with it. I went with it. I thought it was a good choice, you know. Although that one scene where he's making faces in the mirror is a little bit weird. I don't know. I liked it. I thought he was a good Johnny Blaze and a good Ghost Rider. And Sam Elliott as Carter Slade. Okay, in the comic books, Carter Slade was the Phantom Rider, not really a Ghost Rider, but whatever. For the story, it worked. And now we dive into the Avengers timeline, or the Avengers storyline, starting with Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr., great Tony Stark and Iron Man. You know, the smarmy, sarcastic ladies man, the inventive genius, and plus they change his storyline to kind of fit in with our times. I like how they did that. You know, back in the '60s when Iron Man first showed up, he's in Vietnam, held prisoner by a Vietnamese dictator. I think I'm not sure, but I think the Vietnam War was at that time. And, you know, fast forward to nowadays times, having him in Vietnam wouldn't really make sense. So who are we at war with? the people in the Middle East. So send Tony Stark over to the Middle East, have him be held captive by terrorists. That's more relatable than sending him over to Vietnam. You know what? That's great. It worked. I'm disappointed that Terrence Howard wasn't in Iron Man 2. I thought he was a good James Rhodes, especially towards the end when he sees the Mark II suit and he says, "Next time, baby." At that moment, when I saw that in the theater, every nerd in the theater was like, "Oh!" Because who wanted to see War Machine? And you know what? We did. But it's not Terrence Howard, it's Don Cheadle. Which, you know, he's a good Jim Rhodes and War Machine, and I'm glad they kept him for Iron Man 3. But I kind of wanted to see Terrence Howard. I mean, just a little consistency, Hollywood, that's all I want. And the choice of villain, or villains, I should say. Why did they feel they had to combine two bad guys? They took Ivan Vanko, who was the name of one of the people who wore the Crimson Dynamo suit, and Whiplash. You turn the Crimson Dynamo into Whiplash, and then turn him back into the Crimson Dynamo again with Whiplash's powers. Whiplash wasn't Ivan Vanko, he was Mark Scott, I think. I'm pretty sure I don't remember exactly what his name was, but why would you combine him? Yeah. And if you wanted to do something different with the arc reactor technology, you could have had Whiplash had been Howard Stark's old partner, and you know, being jealous of Tony Stark's success and taking the arc reactor technology and converting it into whips. It would have worked. Why'd you have to go with the Crimson Dynamo? Or why couldn't you just go with just the Crimson Dynamo? Or maybe people were tired of seeing a bad guy version of Iron Man, which is what they did with the Jeff Bridges as the Ironmonger in the first one. So, I don't know, maybe they thought a bad guy version of Iron Man was a tired idea. Maybe that's why they didn't go with the Crimson Dynamo or Titanium Man. But let me ask you this, Hollywood. Why wasn't the Mandarin Iron Man's arch nemesis from the very beginning? You could have had Ultimo. You could have had the Mandarin's palace in the Valley of Spirits. You could have had his 10 rings of power. But what is he in Iron Man 3? Some deadbeat actor some deadbeat drug addict British actor. That's the biggest tease of all. You have a British guy who's playing a Chinese terrorist. And they play it off like he's the real bad guy. But he's not the real bad guy. Instead, it's Aldrich Killian, the head of AIM. And AIM was another wasted opportunity, because that could have introduced MODOK, and they didn't. Instead, they focus on some Project Extremis bull crap. Why? Just why? And you know what? Yeah, the Wolverine came out recently. If I may get back to the X-Men for just a little bit. I didn't see it, and I'm really not planning to, because except for the First Class storyline, the X-Men movies have been ruined for me. But for those of you who did see it, I just hope to God they didn't screw over the Silver Samurai. Because I've seen the trailer, and Silver Samurai kind of looks like something out of an Iron Man movie. Now, getting back to the Avengers storyline. I know I went from Iron Man to Iron Man 2, and if you follow the Avengers storyline in the movies, you know, they always have that little extra scene at the end of the credits. And chronologically, it went Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and then Iron Man 2, but you know, for the sake of, I was talking about Iron Man, I just decided to go all through the 3 Iron Man movies. So back to the Avengers. The Incredible Hulk. I like this version a heck of a lot more than the crappy Eric Bana version in 2003. they have the Absorbing Man, but it's not really the Absorbing Man. It's his dad who gets the Absorbing Man's powers. That's dumb. Stop combining villains. It doesn't work. And secondly, what was with all those stupid camera angles? Oh, you're trying to make it look like the comic books? Why? A movie screen doesn't need to look like a comic book. It just needs to be like a movie. It's fine if it's based off of a comic book, but don't make the screen look like a comic book. That's why I like this version a lot more. I like Edward Norton as Bruce Banner and the Hulk. I like how they went with an actual Hulk bad guy, the Abomination. And unfortunately, this movie has another wasted opportunity. They introduce Samuel Stearns, and they hint at the leader. And that's it. We don't see the leader or Sam Stearns ever again after that. Well, whatever. Moving on to the cream of the crop. Thor. Chris Hemsworth, good choice for Thor. Good choice for Loki. Good choice for Odin. Good choice for Jane Foster. And I've seen the trailer for the next Thor, Thor the Dark World. It looks like there's going to be a little bit of tension between Jane Foster and Lady Sif, which there actually was in the comic books. So, thank you, the makers of Thor, for sticking closer to the comics than anybody else. Anybody else, that is, until we got to Captain America. Another one that stuck, in my opinion, stuck as close to the comics as you can. Plus, it had Hydra, one of Marvel's biggest bad guy syndicates. In the entire Marvel universe, Hydra's like at the top of the bad guy food chain. And Captain America, okay, I'm not crazy about how they chose essentially Johnny Storm and put him in Captain America's uniform. They could have gone with somebody else. But whatever, it's over and done with. I still think he did a good job. Plus, Hugo Weaving as the freaking Red Skull. Oh my god. If any guys can play a bad guy, it's Hugo Weaving and... what's his name? Tim Curry. Those are two men who are meant to play bad guys. And the movie this all led up to... The Avengers. Okay, this is the third casting change that they made since the 2003 Hulk. Why couldn't Edward Norton do this? I don't know, but you know what? I don't really care because Mark Ruffalo was also another good choice. And plus, so some, not all, but some of the founding members of the Avengers together in one movie at last. Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, all together in one movie. This is what all of those scenes at the end of each trailer has been leading up to, and it was well worth the payoff, let me tell you. This was phenomenal. And it kind of combines the storyline of how the Avengers formed back in the 1960s, how the story kind of revolved around them all responding to a threat by Loki. And in this movie, Loki has gathered the Chitauri, which is, a Chitauri invasion is how the Ultimates came about. So, yeah, it works. I mean, you took the origin stories of both lines of Avengers and put them together. That's great. That's really great. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on some of the current and not so current Marvel movies. Maybe next time I'll dive into the DC side of things. I haven't seen The Man of Steel yet, but I'm planning on it. But until then, yeah, this is a Black Slimer saying TTFN, ta-ta for now.